How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about the shocking results of Mr. George Floyd's autopsy, and we got to talk about the potential fate of the officer that may have killed Mr. Floyd and Derek Chauvin. And I'll explain why I said may right there in just a minute. But first, let's back up a little bit here. So maybe to give you some context, just so we're on the same page. Now, I think we all know what happened here, or what we saw on videotape, that has pretty much turned this country upside down in a very short period of time. But if you don't know, here's a quick Cliff Notes version. Now, George Floyd, 47-year-old man, Minneapolis, is at a store. He has a fake check or a counterfeit bill, tries to use it. It doesn't work. They call the police on him. The police apprehend him. He may or may not have been resisting. And at a certain point, they get him on the ground. They're restraining him. You have two officers with their weight on his limbs and his back and whatnot to keep him down. And Derek Chauvin, the officer in question, had his knee on the back of Mr. Floyd's neck for almost 9 minutes. There was another guy that was there. I think his name is Tutu, Laotian guy. Interestingly enough, that's actually Derek Chauvin's brother-in-law because he's married to his sister, who's a beauty queen. But I'll move on. That is a general story that happened. And as a result of that, you see the optics. You have black male, unarmed, innocent victim, white male, demon, devil, or whatever. That's caused nationwide riots. There may have been some protests at first that were peaceful, and there still may be some that are sprinkled around the country. But now, 99.9%, not a super accurate number, but you understand what I'm saying, the majority of these so-called protests are riots. People are getting killed, they're getting beat down, stabbed up, people are getting hit with fire, all kind of looting going on. Everything is happening that should not be happening. George Floyd was not a man of violence. He was a man of trying to keep peace, but that's a different story, and I digress. My whole point is that we have nationwide riots as a result of George Floyd. You know, they want to use his name, but really it's not about him. But they say it's about him. Now, if it's about George Floyd, the so-called peaceful protests and the riots, then there's a problem because there's evidence coming out right now that points toward the officer not being at fault here, at least not in the criminal way. And I'll explain. The autopsy has been released. And in the autopsy, it says there is no evidence of asphyxiation or strangulation. Okay. So if the thought process is the cop having his knee on the back of George Floyd's neck caused him to suffocate, he was blocking his airway, the evidence from the autopsy does not point to that. Actually, in the autopsy, it says that Mr. Floyd may have died from a few different things. He had pre-existing conditions. He had coronary heart disease, hypertensive heart disease, and there may have been drugs in the system. Now, as far as the drugs, I don't know what they were. You know, that might come a few days after toxicology comes out. But as of right now, I don't know what the drugs were or what they could be or if there was any drugs at all. But the autopsy says that there was probably drugs there and he had problems with his heart already. He might have even had the virus. Who knows? Because the virus does restrict your breathing. He was saying over and over again, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. It could have been the virus. Who knows? All that I do know is that there's no evidence of him being killed through strangulation, which is what the thought was from the jump. And I said that in videos. People attack me for it. Oh, ABL, you know, I saw what I saw. My own eyes don't lie. I'm like, look, it could have been asphyxiation. I think that it might have been asphyxiation, but I don't have the evidence. I'm not a pathologist. I'm not a doctor. I don't have documents that say exactly why he died. So I can't say that for 100% certain. And then here we are. It's not certain at all. Matter of fact, there's no evidence to point towards it. Now, some may say, well, he did die from that. So what? You just telling, look, you can say whatever you want, but take it to court. You got to be able to prove that a particular thing was done. Now, the family have hired their own pathologist to do a private autopsy, but I doubt they're going to find anything other than what was already found by the first person. Okay, because, you know, the whole thing might be, oh, they work for their county. They're just trying to get the officers off, this, that, and the third. I mean, if you say that, then who do you really believe when it comes to anything? Because that same logic can be applied to the family's private pathologist. The thought process there could be, oh, they were hired by the family privately. They're going to have an axe to grind against the police, all this, that, and the third. So you got to trust somebody at a certain point. I think beyond what the autopsy says, which is pretty much hard fact, you got an actual expert reviewing the situation and giving you what's going on. Aside from the autopsy, there's also some issue with the law we got to talk about. And I'll place all my sources in the box below so you can read it for yourself. According to the Minneapolis Police Policy Manual, Section 5-311, there's an actual piece in there about the use of neck restraints. Okay, now fatal chokehold would be when you block the trachea, when you block the airway on the front of your neck. It says that right there in the book. An approved chokehold would be what he did was just put a knee on the back of his neck. That's actually approved in the book. Okay, now I'm gonna read it to you right quick. Neck restraint, non-deadly force option, defined as compressing one or both sides of a person's neck with an arm or a leg, including the knee, without applying direct pressure to the trachea, which is right here in the front. This is your trachea, or the airway, again, in your front. Your airway is not back here, okay? This is not your airway. You don't breathe from the back of your neck. You breathe from the front, okay? Front of the neck, it says it right there in the book. Only sworn employees who have received training from the NPD training unit are authorized to use neck restraints. The NPD authorizes two types of neck restraints: conscious neck restraint and unconscious neck restraint. Okay, so it says it right there in the book. This is not just me making up stuff. Like I said, I'll link to it in the box so you can read it for yourself. What he did was approved by the book. Now, whether he did it properly, improperly, or whatever, that's something that the court got to decide. But the actual neck hold is allowed. Okay, you can't choke a person by holding the back of their neck. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. You choke somebody by getting them right here. If you get them like this, you get them in the arm lock, like a headlock, and you pull up on their trachea and your carotid artery, all this, that, and the third. That's how you choke somebody. You know, that was the whole Eric Garner thing. That's why everybody was saying I can't breathe or whatever. He was actually getting hit right here. Did it look bad? Yes. Should the man have been rendered some aid? Of course he should have been rendered some aid. But as far as it being an actual restricted hold or a criminal thing, I don't really see. If the department trains you on that and you did what the department trained you to do, now you're getting put into the penitentiary for it. He can't be tried on the whole knee thing, in my humble opinion. It's got to be something else. Of course, you know, the department to get sued, that's for sure. They'll lose a lawsuit. I mean, even if you're guilty, you lose a lawsuit. But as far as him being sent to the penitentiary for a legal neck restraint, I don't really see. So as I close, I want to say this. As more evidence comes out as to what really was going on, I think that to those of us that have a mind and think a little bit critically, it'll matter. But to the cretins that are out there, it's not going to matter. So what's going to be done with them? You got to have some kind of martial law, something. Now, I don't want to have martial law, but what else are you really going to do? Calling the federal troops, calling the state troops, do something, because we can't continue to just have lawlessness out there in the street. Okay? People don't care about facts. If it was about facts, then the rioting would have been over when the officer got arrested and charged with murder. Okay? That would have been about facts. And really, it shouldn't have been the riot to begin with. But if they were really rioting for a purpose, then once the arrest happened, it should have stopped. They're not going to stop. They don't care about Derek Chauvin. They don't care about Mr. Floyd. They don't care about anything. They don't care about facts. All they're worried about is just trying to smash and grab, let off some steam, have a quote unquote good time, and that's it. It's really a shame, but I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? Do you think that Officer Derek Chauvin is guilty of first-degree murder, second-degree, third-degree murder, manslaughter? If you think he's guilty of any of those, what are you basing that on? Me, I don't really know as far as, you know, manslaughter, because the only thing I see that he did wrong, according to the facts that I'm reading, is not render him aid. All right. The neck restraint was allowed. The neck restraint apparently did not cause his death, according to the autopsy. So what he did wrong was not render him aid when he was having a medical emergency, obviously. You know, he was in distress. He had voided himself. So obviously something was wrong And for that, he should be held accountable. Now, whether that be criminal, civil, I have no clue. I'm not a lawyer, not a doctor. All I can do is give you the facts and then give you a little bit of my opinion. That's it. Do you think that I'm wrong here? If I'm wrong, let me know why. I mean, if my facts are incorrect, and again, they will be in the box. If my facts are incorrect, then what are the correct facts? That's what I want to know. All I'm worried about is what's real and what's not real. If it's not real, then I eliminate it. I get rid of it. It's not even in my mind anymore. If it's real, that's what I base my judgments on, and that's it. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.